capitalized on offense. Had some, really for the most part, third down and fourth down were obviously good for us.
It started with a fumble in the end zone and a stunned silence at Ford Field. It ended with Dan Campbell standing at a podium, shaking his head, grinning through gritted teeth, because somehow, someway, his football team found a way to win anyway. This is the story of a Detroit Lions team that looked like it was about to unravel in the first 51 seconds of a football game, and then spent the next 3 quarters proving why this franchise has become impossible to count out. Before we dive in, if you're new here, this is Detroit Scope, and we are on the hunt for our first 1,000 subscribers. If Lions football gets your blood pumping the way it gets ours, do us a solid and hit that subscribe button. It genuinely helps this channel grow. Now, let's get into it. Saturday afternoon at Ford Field was supposed to be another quiet preseason tune-up. Instead, it turned into a Rorschach test for everything Lions fans both love and fear about this football team. On the very second offensive snap of the game, quarterback Josh Dobbs dropped back, and disaster struck almost instantly. Former Lion Amick Robertson, now suited up in Washington burgundy and gold, came screaming off the edge and sacked Dobbs at Detroit's own 18-yard line, jarring the ball loose. What happened next felt like something out of a horror movie for Lions fans. The ball squirted into the end zone, bounced around like it had a mind of its own, and was ultimately recovered by Washington's Joshua Josephs for a defensive touchdown. 51 seconds into the game, and the Commanders were already up 7-0. It was the kind of gut punch opening that makes coaches want to throw their headsets into the nearest body of water. But this is where the story gets interesting, because Dan Campbell has built this Lions program on a very specific philosophy. It's not about how you start, it's about how you respond. And respond they did. Just a few possessions later, Dobbs got the football back and delivered one of the signature plays of the entire Lions preseason so far. On a third down snap, Dobbs took off running, found a crease, and simply would not be caught. 50 yards later, he was standing in the end zone, and just like that, the game was tied at 7. Campbell didn't hide his excitement talking about it afterward. He said there were highs and lows for his quarterback on the day, that the ugly start wasn't entirely on Dobbs since the offensive line didn't hold up in protection. But that touchdown run was the kind of splash play that reminds everyone exactly what Dobbs brings to the table. It was electric, it was unexpected, and it flipped the entire complexion of the football game. From there, the story shifted to the Detroit defense, and this is where things got genuinely fun for Lions fans starving for good news on that side of the ball. Campbell raved about his unit's disruption, saying the defense played really good football, forced stops, and helped drag his team back into contention after that disastrous opening sequence. A huge chunk of the credit went to the trenches. DJ Wonnum got a brief but impactful run at the position, and Campbell made a point of praising what he showed alongside the rest of the front. Then there's Derek Moore, a rookie who has been fighting his way back from a groin injury for much of camp. This preseason game against Washington represented essentially his first real extended action in pads, and he made it count, flashing the kind of disruptive, get-off-the-ball ability that got Lions fans excited about him in the first place. Campbell was quick to point out that Moore is still a young player who's only going to get better the more representatives he stacks up, but the flashes were undeniable. And then there's the player Campbell affectionately calls Sun Bleach, Skylar Gilhoward, the rookie defensive lineman who has quickly become one of the most talked-about names to emerge from this Lions training camp. Campbell didn't hold back describing what makes Gilhoward special. He said you can just feel him out there, that he's relentless, that he plays snap to whistle and gives everything he's got on every single rep. What makes it more impressive, according to Campbell, is that Gilhoward isn't some hulking, prototypical defensive lineman. He's undersized for the position, which means he has to be technically sound and physically violent to make up the difference. Campbell put it bluntly. The guy knows exactly who he is, knows exactly how he has to play to survive at this level, and brings a level of effort and craftiness that makes him must-watch every time he's on the field. High praise from a head coach who does not throw around compliments lightly. Beyond the individual flashes, Campbell also used this post-game moment to talk about something bigger, the evolution of his entire defensive infrastructure under coordinator Kelvin Shepard. He explained that a lot of the exotic blitz packages and disguised looks that Detroit rolled out last season are the same concepts being used now, but the difference is that his players actually understand them at a much deeper level this time around. Guys like Malcolm Rodriguez and Derek Barnes are further along in the system. DJ Wonnum has a firmer grasp of what's being asked of him, and even in the secondary, names like Avant Maddox and DJ Reed are showing the kind of command that comes with experience. Campbell's phrase was that the whole group is simply more evolved, smarter, with a better understanding of situational football, of what they are trying to take away from an offense, and where the ball is likely going before the snap even happens. It's easy to write this off as preseason coach speak, but there's something to be said for a unit that isn't learning on the fly anymore.
Got off to a shaky start, but then, overcame it. I thought defense played, good football, really good football, man, disruptive, and, got us some stops there, got us back in it, and then we capitalized on offense, had some, really for the most part, third down and fourth down were obviously good for us. The takeaway, I thought special teams was a factor in this game. I know it's preseason too, but, man, I thought our coverage units were big. We forced penalties. Jack Fox pinning them. I thought the kicks by Bates on the kickoffs were important. I mean, he's getting better at them. And I just thought guys played fast. And so defensively, we were able to, to play in their territory a ton, keep them backed up. So that was good. A number of these guys I thought showed up, man, played at a high level. I can't wait to watch the tape. And then there were some that, we'll see that weren't as good. But ultimately, it's good to win the game. Questions?
What did you think of the two quarterbacks?
Man, I thought there was highs and lows. Certainly you don't want to start the game the way we did. Now that's not all on him. We didn't pick up the protection the way we should, and so he gets hit there, and and then. But he got out of it, and I thought that run was big. That's something that he is capable of. That was a big third down run for a touchdown, and then I thought, when he came back out in the second half, because we put Altmyer in, I thought Dobbs was, did some really good things, and Altmyer, I still think he sees the field really well. I mean, we like these guys. There's a lot of promise in that D line room. There's a lot of guys. We played Wanham for just a tick there, and boy, I thought he represented. It was good to see with those other guys, and got him out of there. And then D Moore, that's really, D Moore hadn't had a ton. I mean, really, this last week is what he's gotten in pads. Because he had that injury, that groin injury, but that was good to see. Now I got to watch the tape, and I just know with him, he's another guy's a young guy. The more reps he gets, the better he's going to get. So that was good to see him make plays, and Sunbleach just continues to make plays. He doesn't practice. You can feel him out there, and he just is relentless, and he plays snap the whistle, and he's all out, and he's got to be right. He does, because he's not a huge guy, but he knows who he is, and he knows how he has to play, and he plays with high effort, and he's crafty, man. He's explosive, and he's violent. The system. And a lot of these things we want to do now that we've been doing, and so we're much more evolved, man. And I know they weren't playing, Jack wasn't playing, but Jack's got even a better understanding. And then the guys that did, man, Rodrigo is another year in this. Barnes is another year in this. Freaking Now is. Tyleek is. Wanham's understanding this system. Man, our DB's got this thing. Maddox is in there, and and Reed's in there. It's just we're smarter, man. We're more evolved. We have a better understanding of time on task with these, why we're calling them, what we're trying to take away, where the offense wants to go with the ball when you're calling this stuff. And so I think that's where we've really grown. And I know it's early, it's a preseason game, but that's the biggest evolution,
Of course, no Lions game recap would be complete without diving into the quarterback situation. Because let's be honest, that's the drama fueling half the conversations in Lions Nation right now. With Jared Goff resting, this game turned into a proving ground for the backup job, and both Dobbs and rookie Luke Altmyer got extended runs. We already covered Dobbs' highlight reel touchdown run, but Campbell also praised how Dobbs bounced back and played within himself once the offense settled down. Then Altmyer came in for extended second-half snaps and, according to Campbell, continues to show he sees the field really well. The head coach did note a couple of areas where the rookie still needs polish, and the biggest one keeps coming up week after week: speed of processing. Campbell said it plainly. Can Altmyer play a little bit faster? He believes the answer is yes, but it's going to come down to representatives, and the more live snaps the rookie gets, the sharper that internal clock is going to become. It wasn't a flawless day from either quarterback, but Campbell made it clear both of them did enough good things to keep this backup competition wide open heading into the final week of the preseason. Special teams, somehow, might have been the real MVP unit of this entire football game, and Campbell spent real time gushing about it. He credited his coverage units for forcing penalties and controlling field position all afternoon, specifically calling out punter Jack Fox for consistently pinning Washington deep in their own territory. He also gave a nod to kicker Jake Bates, saying his kickoffs are improving and becoming a real weapon for flipping field position, something that matters a ton in a game this tight. In a contest decided by 4 points, those hidden yards absolutely mattered. The running back room also got its moment in the sun. Campbell sounded genuinely encouraged by what he saw from his group of backs, saying they ran hard and kept pushing the pile even when the blocking wasn't perfect. Travion Williams punched in the eventual game-winning touchdown, a physical 1-yard plunge with just 9 seconds left in the third quarter that ultimately proved to be the difference. Campbell praised the effort across the board from his depth backs, while also acknowledging his offensive line still has cleanup work to do after several miscommunications and missed assignments throughout the game. On the tight end front, Jackson Meeks continues his fascinating transformation from a big, physical outside receiver into a weapon at tight end. Campbell described him as strong, athletic, and smart, someone who is still adjusting to a new position but bringing real juice on special teams in the meantime. It's a slow build story, but one worth watching as the roster takes shape. Not every update from Campbell's podium was good news, though, and that's the tabloid twist every Lions fan needs to hear about. Running back Sione Vaki was held out of this game entirely after waking up the day before with a painful back spasm, something the team hoped to treat and loosen up in time, but simply ran out of runway on. Campbell noted, almost in passing, that Vaki has already been dealing with a rough camp physically, having come off a broken nose and an eye injury before this back issue popped up. The expectation is he'll be back at practice this week, but it's the kind of accumulating injury history that Lions fans will want to keep an eye on. Even more concerning is the situation with veteran receiver Cedric Wilson Jr., who is being evaluated for a knee injury. Campbell didn't sugarcoat his concern here, saying flatly that he's worried, that they're still getting the knee looked at, and that there's no real update yet. For a receiver room this deep and this competitive, losing a versatile piece like Wilson for any real stretch of time would sting. Speaking of that receiver room, Campbell couldn't stop praising its depth. He specifically shouted out Lucky Jackson, a player who doesn't always get headlines, but who Campbell says does something every single practice to catch the coaching staff's eye, both as a receiver and as a core special teams contributor. Names like Greg Dortch, Tom Kennedy, and Dominic Lovett also got mentioned as guys making plays in what Campbell called a genuinely strong room. And then there's Tay Martin, who Campbell defended passionately when asked whether his lack of gaudy stats undersells his value. Campbell pointed out that Martin had 2 separate opportunities for explosive plays that were there for the taking, but protection breakdowns took them away, not a lack of talent or opportunity. He praised Martin's relentless effort on special teams, including drawing another penalty during this very game, and made it clear this is a player doing all the little things that simply don't always show up on a stat sheet. When it was all said and done, the Lions walked away with a 17-13 victory, their record improving to 1-1 in the preseason, and more importantly, a mountain of tape that gives this coaching staff real information heading into final roster decisions. Detroit will close out its preseason slate on the road against the Indianapolis Colts, and if this performance is any indication, there are still plenty of storylines left to settle before the regular season kicks off. A shaky start, a defense that's clearly leveling up, a backup quarterback battle still very much alive, and a few injury situations that could shake up the roster picture in a hurry. Buckle up, Lions fans, because this ride is only getting started. If you enjoyed breaking this one down with us, do us a favor and smash that like button. Drop a comment telling us who impressed you most from this game. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. We are working hard to hit 1,000 subscribers on Detroit Scope, and every single one of you who joins the Pride gets us closer to that goal. Thanks for riding with us, and we'll see you in the next one.